When Dina was first hired, it was the role of clerk and zoning administrator, and since that time, she has taken on the duties of finance officer, which is, as you can see, is very important to our town and to the health of our financial stability. We've also seen increased interest in development in Lucama, and so it seems that it would more evenly distribute the workload if I was to be named the zoning administrator.
Okay, I made that motion that we appoint Elizabeth as the zoning administrator.
I think it's a great idea.
A second.
A second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, likewise? Approved. Next is termination of joint pole ownership agreement.
At some point in the past, the town of Lucama and Brightspeed entered into an agreement where they shared the ownership of the utility poles. And that was so Brightspeed could have their attachments for telephone and internet there. Mr. Clark and Mr. Willoughby started working on a way to terminate that, and basically some poles would be owned completely by Brightspeed and some poles would be owned completely by Lucama. And then should Brightspeed need to attach to our poles, there would be an attachment fee that would be billed to them. So what you have before you is the agreement to basically end the joint use, the joint ownership, and then it specifies how many poles the town will own and how many Lucama shall receive and retain 158 utility poles, and Brightspeed will retain 114 utility poles. And this information came partly from the Osmos inventory that you had done last year.
Do we pay Brightspeed to use those poles?
We will, Mr. Willoughby has an agreement that he wanted them to react to before I brought it to the board. So there would be a charge for them to attach to our poles, and we would be charged to attach to their poles.
That was my next question, is this charge like the same?
It's
Will
like
it
it's like
be-
$11.
I know, will it even out is what I'm saying, will it like, it's hard to say.
It's hard to say.
Okay.
There are a lot of poles, Brightspeed, or there are a lot of poles that just have telephone
Mm-hmm.
and nothing else on it, no power or anything else, so I don't, it'd be interesting to see how it shakes out, but, I can't imagine it would cost us a lot.
It's just the number of poles, we have more poles in this agreement than they do.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
It's interesting that they even want to take control of them, I mean, that they want to keep it there. I think they're trying to, grow a little bit, which is, yeah.
But thinking too deep. Okay, say it's their pole and we're attached to it, and there's damage to the pole, they have to repair the pole.
If it is their pole, then
They
yes,
have
they
to
would have to.
repair it.
That's
Mhm.
right.
But I mean, it has to be repaired, it can't just be put aside.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, that answers my questions. So I'll make a motion to approve the termination of the joint pole ownership agreement and the division of the utility poles.
Got a motion, got a second?
That's second.
Got a motion, got a second, all approved? Opposed, likewise? Next is the American Rescue Plan policy.
This is your packet within a packet. The town received grant funding through ARPA funds that came from the Department of Environmental Quality. ARPA is American Rescue Plan Act. And so those grant funds were used for an asset inventory assessment for both the water and sewer system, so we could understand what the needs of the system were. In using these funds, it's required for the town to adopt policies to comply with federal grant regulations. So before you tonight is the standard policies that are recommended to be adopted by the School of Government. So we're asking for a motion to approve the resolution for allowable cost and cost principles, and then also a motion to approve the eligible use, purchasing and procurement, conflict of interest, civil rights, records retention, and internal control policies.
Questions, comments?
a motion to approve the resolution for allowable costs and cost principles.
Got a motion, got a second?
Second.
Got a second, all in favor? Opposed likewise? Motion carried.
We need one more. For the policy.
I make a motion to approve the eligible use purchasing and procurement, conflict of interest, civil rights, records retention, and internal control policies.
All right, got a motion, got a second?
Second.
Got a motion, got a second, in favor? Opposed likewise? All right, motion carried on that. Next would be Ironwood subdivision sketch plan.
Okay, this sketch plan was recommended by the planning board. The sketch plan basically shows the area of the lots and the general layout. And so, once the Board of Commissioners approves the sketch plan, that allows the developer to then develop their construction drawings and the preliminary plat. The zoning for these parcels is R20, which does allow 15,000 square foot lots as long as the town is serving the subdivision with water and sewer. You'll see here that the town is serving the project with water, sewer, and electricity. The planning board did approve the sketch plan, and so we are bringing this to you for your approval tonight to give the developer an opportunity to move on to developing a preliminary plat. And you have a large copy of the plans, in between you.
I have like the weirdest question. You know I do.
Okay.
How wide are the streets? Cause it doesn't really say on here.
It's on the top.
I'm with the engineer, Corey Crosby with Stocks.
Mhm.
If you look right here on the, that cross section right there,
It's a 60-foot right of way.
it's a 60-foot right away, so we have a 10-foot each, on each lane, so 20-foot total is what it should be.
Okay,
With full curb.
okay, perfect. I always have the weird questions.
Did y'all have any questions for him?
Not that I had already asked.
Okay. Okay.
That's it.
Motion to accept the sketch plan.
So moved.
We got a motion, we got a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed likewise? All in favor, all approved.
Okay, so the item of new business that we added was for you all to consider paying for a stormwater drainage study for the other area that's under consideration for development, Katie's Landing. I've been in contact with the town engineer, and he says that they can provide a general drainage study with recommendations for the proposed track, for around $2,000. Obviously, if we came in and said we want a much more in detail scope of work, then that would increase the price. He did say that this would be a general approach and would be performed by the engineers, who are developing that property as part of construction drawings. However, this would be an opportunity for the town to have our engineer's opinion and then to review, against the developer's engineer's opinion.
In the planning board, one of the questions that came up was,
Oh, yes.
was where the water is going. And I think the engineers, and they've done a great job in doing what they're doing. We just felt like we need to go another step, and it will just reassure us, I think, as a planning board and as a town, that, if you will, the double check what they're doing. And we're not saying they're doing a bad thing, we want to be sure, because once it's done, so
Correct.
that's, and
Well, I have this question and I don't know, where is the water going?
well,
We know.
yeah, we do, and they know, and, it's gonna end up where water ends up, which is in the creek somewhere.
Exactly.
In the
What
creek
route
somewhere.
is it gonna take? to
Well,
get
and
there?
there's several different routes, because some's gonna go forward and some's gonna go back, depending on how it's graded and all that, but that's kind of what this plan, and I'm sure he could answer more questions than I could about that, because he was here and he understands it, but that's, and as far as engineering goes, they have done what they need to do, and they're not just responsible to us, they're
Right.
responsible for some state agencies.
Right.
So, we feel pretty secure in what they're doing. This is just like a double check. And it's $2,000, it's a lot of money, but it's something we feel like would make us feel a little better about everything. So, just a double check. That's what it's about.
I need a motion. Okay. I'll make a motion that we approve that.
I second.
Got a motion, got a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed likewise?
Okay. So I'm periodically updating you all on the two grant projects to improve the sewer system and the water system. Unfortunately, no bids were received on September 4th. McDavid and Associates re-advertised the project. This is for the sewer system improvements. And we hope to receive bids tomorrow at 2 p.m. For the water system, the Division of Water Infrastructure Public Water Supply is requiring a permanent easement for an existing water line. It seems that the water line was put in and we didn't get an easement, which happens a lot. So the property owner has been contacted and the town's waiting for a response. So until we hear back from that property owner, just sort of in a holding pattern. I want to talk again about the audit. Staff worked really hard pulling all the documentation that was requested for the audit. And Dana will be on site tomorrow, as Dana mentioned, to do the field work. And the last item I have an update for you on is the power supply request for proposals. So at our last meeting, the board approved a contract with UTEC to seek proposals from electricity providers. The RFP was sent out on September 25th with responses due from electricity providers by October 17th. And the following companies were contacted to see if they would submit a proposal. And those were Carolina Power Partners, Duke Energy, Dominion, Santee Cooper, Electricities, PMPA, Southern Company, and Southern Power. And so once those proposals are received and reviewed by UTEC, they will make a recommendation to the town.
Comments, questions?
Okay.
Good.
I'm good.
Motion to adjourn?
I'll motion to adjourn.
That's a second.
Second.
All approved? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Appreciate y'all
Well,
coming.
I told my son I hope I would see him at
Hey,
8.
Dina, it just said out. A couple of documents ago when I was writing, it just said out.
Did you have anything already?
Bye, thank you, Melanie.
Hey, let's add a little bit of EQ, so you said also.
I agree with Blake.
Yeah.
I don't know, do I need to turn the camera off?
What you need, and
Oh, yeah.
Do I need to turn the camera off?
Well, here, yeah, that's